Okay, now that we've added our service, let's go and configure the logic that we're going to use inside this token service. So our goal is to return a string that's going to be a JSON web token, and we are going to need to inject something into our token service as we're going to need a token key. Our token is going to be signed with a secret key that we're going to define on our server, and that key stays on our server. So we need to inject, and we'll use the primary constructor method of doing so, the iConfiguration, and we'll call it config. And then inside our create token method, we'll say var token key equals, and we'll use our config, and we're going to extract from that a configuration setting called token key. Now there is potential that this could be null, as this method, and in fact it definitely will be null. Config is not null here, but we don't have a configuration setting for token key. So we'll check for nullness at this stage, and we could do that by using a double question mark. So if token key is null, or what is the result of this is null, then if we don't have it, we're going to throw a new exception and say cannot access token key from app settings. And that's just for us really, because that's where we're going to configure this. And if you do have a problem with your token key, then this is just a hint for you to go and check your app settings, because our configuration files, we use strings to define these settings, and it's very easy to make a typo or something inside there. Also, we're going to check the token key length, because in recent security updates, this token key, for the way that we're going to create it, has to be a minimum length. So I'm also going to add a quick check inside here and say if token key.length is less than 64, then I'm going to throw a new exception and say your token key needs to be longer, because if it's not 64 characters, then you're going to get an exception anyway. And then we'll create the key. So I'll say var key equals, and we're going to use a security package here for a symmetric security key. And in order to create our key, we're going to need access to a package to help us with this. So I'll open up the NuGet gallery and just open up the command palette, and with Control-Shift-P and search for NuGet gallery, which has disappeared from my list of things. And we do have the ability to install NuGet packages from VS Code. I've just always preferred the NuGet gallery. And let's take a look at the extensions and NuGet gallery. And it is installed and should be available. And okay, that seems to be an issue with my VS Code at this moment in time. And I'm not entirely sure what that problem is, but I'm not going to worry about it because there's always more than one way to do things. And we do have the ability to just use VS Code native functionality to add a NuGet package. Or this probably comes with a C# dev kit. So I can use this one as an alternative and say NuGet add NuGet package, and then I get to search for the package that I'm interested in. Now we need to search for system.identityModel.tokens, and I'm going to press return to go ahead and search NuGet, and we need this one, system.identityModel.tokens.jwt. So if your NuGet gallery is working, then great, just choose this one. Or if you've got problems with NuGet gallery like I'm having, then use this approach to go and install it. So I'm going to select this one, and then we get to choose a package version, and just pick the latest one in this case. And this does the same thing that NuGet gallery does anyway. If I go to the API to go to my CS_proj file, then what I should have in here is system identity models tokens JWT, because that's what we've just installed. Okay, now that we have this available, we can then use a feature or a function from there, and we're going to create a new symmetric security key. And the symmetric security key, there's two types of keys, there's asymmetric and symmetric. A symmetric key is where the same key is used to both encrypt and decrypt information. And asymmetric is the process that you'll be more familiar with, I suspect, with SSL certificates, for instance, where we have a concept of a public key and then a private key. So we have one key to encrypt it and another to decrypt it. But in our case, we're going for one key to rule them all and to encrypt and decrypt. But when using this system, we need to make sure that the key is stored securely on our server and nobody can access it and nobody can just see it. So inside here, we're going to specify encoding again because our symmetric security key takes a byte array. So we're going to need to convert a string effectively into a byte array, and we could do that by using encoding and then UTF-8, just as we've done before, and say get bytes, and then we'll pass this the token key. Now our token is going to contain claims about the user. And a claim is just something a user would claim about themselves. They might say, I claim my date of birth is this. I claim that my name is Bob. I claim that I support Arsenal football team, for example. It's just a claim about the user. And we've got a standard way of defining these inside a token. So I'm going to say var claims equals new list of claims. So I'll specify claim as the type, and then we'll open curly brackets, and then we could specify the new claims that we want to add inside our token. Now we'll just have one for the time being. So I'm going to say new claim, and then in parentheses I'm going to say claim types, and I'm going to use name identifier and set this to be the user.username. That's the only claim that we're going to make at the moment inside our token. Now notice we've got these ellipses again, and the new expression can be simplified. So let's see what this does. And this will simply just use new rather than specifying new claim. Because it knows what we're creating inside this list, we specified a type up here. So in modern versions of C#, we don't also need to say new claim because it already knows what type it's going to be. So that's our claim. And then we need to describe the other elements of our token. So we're going to say var token descriptor equals, and we'll say new security token descriptor. And then inside here, we need to give our token a subject. And this is going to take our, or set our new subject equal to be a new claims identity. And then we'll pass in our claims as the parameter there. We'll give it an expiry date and say this token is going to expire. And then we'll say date time. And we'll select UTC now and say add days and 7. So after a week, our token will no longer be valid. Please do not worry about any security weaknesses at this stage of development. We're running our app on localhost, and we're just really going to set up the user interface so a user can log in and register. We're logging in on our developer machines over localhost. We are not in danger by having a weak security system at the moment. And then we'll specify our signing credentials, and we'll set this equal to, and this is something else that we need to create. So just below the claims, I'll say var creds equals, and we'll say new signing credentials, and we pass this to key, and then we specify the algorithm that we want to encrypt this key with. So we'll specify security algorithms, and then we'll just specify HMAC SHA-512 signature as the encryption level that we'll be using to sign our key. Now, when we use this one, then we need a token key that has a length greater than 64, which is why I've specified this as the token key length we're checking for, otherwise we throw in an exception. So we've got our creds, and I'll say our signing credentials equals creds. And then below the token descriptor, we're going to have a token handler. So I'm going to say var token handler equals new JWT security token handler, and execute that. Then we'll have our token. So I'm going to say var token equals, And we use our token handler to create the token. So we'll say create token, and we'll pass it the token descriptor. And then finally we can return our token handler, and we can write the token to the response and return token. So that's our logic for creating a JSON Web Token that we can then use to return to the browser for that user when they do login or register. And next we'll take a look at how we can use that token and return it to the user.